If you've ever wondered if you should be doing prints of your art, you're going to want to watch the rest of this video. This was part of a live session that comes with every one of my online courses in which I answer questions, critique artists' work, and offer coaching advice. And we have a question from Wendy, which is, how do I go about reproducing my work as prints? Currently can't afford a scanner and printer to do it myself. I'm looking into print-on-demand services, and I could stretch the printed canvas myself. Okay, well, in terms of getting other people to do prints of your work, the reason I self-publish all of my work is when I wanted to move away from the big publisher. I was with Mill Pond Press for a number of years, and I wanted to start self-publishing. I could not find anyone out there who could do really good, high-quality giclee prints. Now, that was probably 15 years ago, and that's when again, digital prints was kind of a brand new thing. So if you're trying to find a printer, I can't recommend one. What I would do is search out printers who offer prints to artists and then ask them if they can refer you to some of their clients and speak to an artist that's actually getting prints done. All I can tell you is I wasted about $3,000 with 3 different printers where I took paintings in, and they were saying, oh yeah, we can do the prints. And then so they photograph the work, they do the imaging, they do the print, and you come in to view the proof, and it was absolutely horrible. And it's like, there's no way. And they're like, oh, well, that's too bad, but you owe us $1,200 for our services. So I started doing it all on my own. And I would recommend to anybody out there, if you're going to start printing, you might want to do it just some small prints, maybe if you can find someone who's reputable. But the cost markup, if you're paying someone to have your prints done, it usually it was probably going to cost you around 30 to 40% of the retail cost. Whereas if you can do the prints yourself, the cost of the ink and the canvas is about 5% of the wholesale cost. So for example, for a giclee print that we're selling for $1,000. Our cost in ink and canvas is only $50. And you can get some amazing, so right now, I'm just going to go over some of the costs of the printers. You can get the Epson P900 printer, and that will print up to 17 inches wide on either canvas or paper. And that's only $675. You're going to go and get 4 or 5 prints done, and you're going to pay that to have it done from a printer. So I really recommend doing it yourself. And not only that, like when I first started doing printing, I invested in about $25,000 in equipment. Now the printers are very cheap, and an iPhone, what do we got here? iPhone 12 will take a 12 megapixel picture, and an iPhone 14 will take a 48 megapixel picture. Those are more powerful cameras than what I was using when I first started doing my prints. And a 12 megapixel image will allow you to print 26 by 17 inches. So you can take good quality photos with your iPhone or your other smart device, if it's fairly new, that are sufficient to do prints like 24 by 24, 24 by 30. It just makes so much sense, I would say, to do it yourself. And the only thing that I don't do, it's funny that Wendy mentioned she could do the stretching. That's the only thing that we don't do, because that is the thing that is an art. And it's got to be done perfectly. So there's no ripples or warps in it. That's the one thing that we do farm out. Now, I'm just going to show you a couple examples here, what you can do when you're printing. So when I first started out, I just had a little desktop printer. Let me turn this so it's at the camera. So there you can see this print here on paper. Let me turn it this way. Okay, in front of my face. That was a printer back then. I think I spent like $600 or $800 on, and I would have these pre-matted. I would take them out to the festivals, and I would sell something that size for about $100 matted. And I paid for my printer the very first festival that I did. Now, the one thing I will tell you about doing prints, that people like to have something, they would prefer to have something that's actually ready to take home and hang. They don't like having to go and get something framed. We've all had the experience, you buy a painting for a relatively inexpensive amount of money and you go and it's $300 to get it framed. But you could also frame those inexpensively with glass in front of them if you're kind of like selling in person at an event. The problem with glass is it's no good when it comes to shipping. And we used to do prints on paper framed, but what we do now is this. Oh, actually funny, the green screen showing through there. But these are prints on canvas. You can see this here. So we print them on canvas, then we mount them on board, and then we just frame it. Bring it back in front of me here, like it's got to be at an angle so the green screen doesn't show. But we just frame them, and I think this entire process together here, I think it costs us about $30, Cameron, somewhere around $30 to do this, and we sell these for $149, and we can ship them because there's no glass. So that's what I would recommend if you're just getting started, and I would start with small prints first. And actually, before I get any further, let's talk about when it's time to start doing prints? Because a lot of artists are like, oh, I'm not making that much money off the sale of my originals. Maybe I'll do some prints. If that's the case, you're just going to not make much money off your prints. The time to start doing prints is two things. It's where you're selling your work very, very regularly to the point that you're having trouble keeping up with the demand, and your prices are getting to the point where people who used to be clients of yours for originals are now saying, oh, we can't afford your originals anymore. Do you do prints, right? So it's once your sales have been so much that your prices are starting to really get up there, and when people are asking you to do prints. But if you're not selling your originals, you will just be not selling your prints, and the prices have to be high enough to make it worthwhile. But ideally, you want your giclee to be no less than 20% of the cost of an original. So if the cost of your originals are still fairly low, then again, if you have to make a giclee print, 20% of that, if your prices aren't high enough, you're not even going to cover your costs. So again, prints are not a way to increase your earnings if you're already having trouble selling your work. Prints are a way of scaling your earnings if you're already having great success in selling. If you're interested in making a living from your art, I really encourage you to click on the link below. That'll get you 80% off of my Unstoppable Artist program. That gives you a step-by-step plan to actually make a livable income from your art. You can also get 5 chapters from my new book, absolutely free. And remember, all of my online courses come with a free live Q&A session and a 30-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee. So if you dream of making a living from your art, what are you waiting for? Go ahead, click on the link below.